Got in the background. Hang it up there.
I think on your chest would be better.
Okay, are you ready, Shelley? We're ready, thank you very much. All right. So, good evening, this is the August 21st, 2023 meeting of Board of Directors of Clackamas Fire District number 1. At Clackamas Fire District, we are always here for you. We value our people and the people we serve. Our focus is establishing teams, which is an acronym for trust, empowerment, accountability, mindset, and service. If you are attending in person, please sign in on the sheet next to the door. It's not our requirement, it's the law. So this regular monthly meeting of Clackamas Fire District's Board of Directors will come to order now at 5 p.m. per ORS 192.610 to 192.690. For ORS 192.650, this meeting is being recorded. The video recording of this meeting will be placed on the Clackamas Fire District website later this week. So at this time, ask everyone to please stand, face the flag for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chief Brown, are there changes to the agenda?
We do, Marilyn, we have 3 changes,
Okay.
R1B, R1E, and R1F out of the information only. Chief Stewart, Chief Mueller are both coming back from deployment, so they will not be here tonight. And then
Well, does that mean someone else can give it or we're just not doing
we just won't do it.
it? Okay.
And then R1F, professional firefighters, there was a family emergency, so we will not be hearing a report from them.
Okay, good. Anything else?
And that's it, everything else, the agenda should stay.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the minutes of the budget committee meeting on May 25th, 2023, and the regular board meeting on July 17th, 2023. Does any board member have any comments or changes to either? Hearing none. Then the minutes for the budget committee meeting on May 25th, 2023, and the regular board meeting on July 17th, 2023 stand approved as written. Okay, at this time, I'm calling for any statements from citizens regarding district business. Shelby, did anybody sign up? Okay, is there anybody on the website that's indicated in there? Hearing none, okay. So, at this time, we will have a presentation and a board training from Jeff Griffin of Wilson Airgate Associates. Jeff.
Thank you. Technically, I'm not representing Wilson Airgate tonight. I'm representing OFDDA and OFCA, and this is a board training that's approved by SDAO. So this will get you 2% credit on your insurance at renewal time. SDAO has pretty simple rules. You have to be in the room, but you don't have to be awake. So that's a good thing.
Can we count Jim? He's not in the room.
Jim counts.
And he's not awake.
As long as he holds up that piece of paper the whole time.
Yeah, that's right. This past year, we've seen some real interesting activity with lawsuits and events and injuries. And SDO asked me to showcase a little different approach to the HR side of our industry. We focus so much on operations, and nobody does it better than we do it, than you do it. When it comes to putting out fire and EMS calls, nobody does it better. The interesting thing is that there has been a significant migration away from challenges there with civilians, lawsuits and whatnot. We just don't see those anymore. But it's really moved into our HR side, everything other than fire. If you would, can you advance? Do you want me to do that? This is great. So let's go 2 slides. Perfect. I do want to shine a little bit of light on a couple of operations, things that have happened that you need to be aware of. We're seeing a major spike in auto lawsuits and auto deaths. This last year, 2022, reported we're way up to 36 fatalities in driving error. Now, the last 3 years prior to last year, all of our fatalities were volunteers, 16, 18, 20 a year. This last year, we had 20 volunteers and 16 paid.
Is this in Oregon?
No, this is nationwide. Nationwide. No, not in Oregon. But what we are seeing is a significant number of, increase in number of auto accidents. Intersections is probably the worst, by far, but we're seeing a major spike, and all of the insurers are watching that closely. So the one thing I would suggest, and you already do it with tenders, we tone them down from a 3 to a 1. There's no reason to send a tender out code 3, but just be vigilant with all of our engineers, all of our drivers, that driving is, right now, for whatever reason, something that we need to shine a little bit of light on being on top of. I do want to talk about also workers' compensation, and a fatality report that just came out. Now, this fatality report comes out from NFPA. It says it comes out in June, but it actually comes out in July, so it's fresh off the press. Fatalities are also spiking. Now, if you look at history of fatalities dating back to 1977, when we were at a peak at about 168, 170 a year, there are 3 benchmarks down that coincide with changes in NFPA. The 1500 series, big drop, and then the 1700 series, big drop, and then the rewrite of the 1500 series. And we got into the 70s and 80s for fatalities. I think as of Friday, we are at 50 fatalities already this year. We'll clearly hit fairly close to 100 this year. Last year it was way up, and the 2 areas, driving is one of them that's way up, but heart attack. And we believe that, again, it is severe dehydration, but I just want to point out that our injury rate, our fatality rate is climbing. When we get away from those 2 events, driving and our injury rate, our fatality rate, most everything we're seeing today is not at the emergency scene. And it involves each of you, it involves our day-to-day operations in the station, around the station. And our culture has just changed. And I know you see it when you're out in public. You see people arguing over a parking space. You see people caustic to a server, caustic in a grocery store line. People have just changed. In a 4-month period of time, Seattle reported 40 firefighters were assaulted by a civilian, not at an emergency scene. Now, you would expect that a spousal abuse call, you're called into a spousal abuse situation, you'd expect a confrontation there. You don't expect it when you're going through the grocery store and your shift is grabbing food and somebody comes up and starts taking it out of the cart saying, "You're not spending my taxpayers on this," not realizing that it's the firefighter's money. It's unbelievable what we're seeing, and it's just the times we're in. Very angry, very caustic, and I don't know what caused it, whether it was COVID or some civil unrest. I don't know what's causing it, but what I would suggest to you is that our medics on the scene are going to do a great job, but it's the relationship with civilians, it's the relationship with the mom of the infant that is being cared for, where we're seeing problems. So it's just a very challenging time. Please.
Is it that number, how is it in Oregon versus Washington?
So most of what I'm seeing is metro area.
Oregon.
So yeah, Portland metro area. This area is pretty intense right now. We're seeing an awful lot of issues that have developed. Seattle is, anything north of Olympia is just tough, very tough. And our unhoused community, firefighters that are rolling into those calls, those are tough calls. Those are hard calls. And it's, we've got a couple of areas in the Northwest where the police will not go in with them. If we have an emergency, they're on their own. You're smiling, Maryland. These are just challenging times. And what we're seeing is that if you have a uniform on, a couple of years ago, if you were police, you were expecting that on a day-to-day basis. We didn't see it with the fire service. We are today. So, and that's what I really want to talk to you about today, is coaching and working with our folks to be able to handle those and be able to understand that how we communicate with civilians, how we communicate with each other is really where we need to focus here in the short run. If you would go to the next slide. Some of the challenges that we're seeing, and I said HR, but the truth is it's everything other than fire. So it's all the administration staff, it's the board, and it is HR. But some of the challenges that we're seeing just our culture is fragile today. The calls they're running on, the interface with civilians isn't pleasant. The job is not as much fun as it used to be. And it's become, it's made our culture very fragile, and it is a challenge to rebuild that. I think our troops are really longing for leadership, but I think they're also afraid of what the future brings. We're seeing a number of people leave the industry. We're seeing a lot of job hopping right now. We're seeing lists that are short. You know, you look back 5-6 years and you had a list of people who want to be a firefighter here at Clackamas because it's a great place to work. And today we can't fill those boots. We can't find qualified people. Injuries, illness. When we have a firefighter that goes out, especially on a disabling injury, we want to stay connected with that firefighter. If we don't, you know, anybody who is at home, laying on the couch, watching daytime TV, it doesn't take very many days before, you know, you start to feel isolated, you feel separated. And we're a tribe. And when you're separated like that, we want to make sure that they know they're loved and they're cared for. Employer-related suits, theft, embezzlement, everywhere. Everywhere you turn today, it's just a big deal. It's phenomenal how good the bandits are today. High turnover, new hire orientation. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Promotions, demotions, consistent. It's unbelievable, but just the consistency between shifts. So shift A may be have a shift leader that is pretty tightly wrapped, very focused. Shift B may not, and just changing when you come into the house and things aren't where they should be. Practical jokes, whatnot. We're seeing some events around that. Next slide, if you would. Compensation packages. There's so much confusion today with what people get, don't have, how it works, and just re-educating people on a regular basis about what they have, what a great place this is to work, and just to be aware of how that compensation package works so that when there is an event, they know what to expect and they know what is covered and what isn't covered. Leadership development. You know, we're so busy. The idea of actually trying to develop our officers, you know, I cannot tell you how many times I've seen a firefighter who was absolutely the best at that task, chopping holes, squirting water, get promoted up to be now a leadership position with little or no training to take on those reins. And that's where our errors occur in the field. It's that first-time officer who doesn't know how to communicate, who doesn't know now that they're tactical and not task-driven. And I would encourage us all, and I think it's important when we have a new hire that we learn what their long-term career plans are, and then we make sure that everyone who wants to promote up knows what it takes, they're prepared, and they may or may not pass the test, they may or not be the one that gets the promotion, but we want them all prepared.
In the leadership development, a big thing comes from mentoring here. When we have a new people, mentoring means officers and the crew working together, everybody become a mentor. And that's where this leadership development come from. And that is a non-existent in the last few years.
We're so busy that it's an art that's died, unfortunately. And you take a line firefighter who was part of that family, of that clan, that group, and promote them up. And I can assure you this, that yesterday they were a family. And today, now that they have a stripe, now that they have a promotion, they're treated differently. And there's that defining moment, day one, when they take that role, firefighter walks in and lights up a cigarette, doesn't smoke, and you have a no smoking rule, and all they're doing is testing that new leader. What are you gonna do? And that's a defining moment. Are you gonna be a leader or are you not? And teaching those skills is so important. Succession planning, you know, today is hard. With turnover, with where we're at, it is so hard to plan, but it's so important to do. State and federal regulations. We talk about all the laws. You open the meeting with 192, open meetings and public records. It changes every year. And it not big changes, but little ones that can trip us up. So both state and federal regulations are critical. OSHA, you're sitting on an OSHA committee right now. And when it's all done, I'm sure you're gonna be surprised with what they come out with rulings, and probably maybe even a little bit disappointed. But things change so fast. You know, we cannot rely on what we knew last year. We just need to know where to call to get the right answers. Legal and accounting, critical, conflicts internally, how we resolve those. Risk management, we are faced with just a volume of challenges that have nothing to do with our operations, with nothing to do with who we are and the services we provide. And it's every day in the station, it's every day with administration, it's every day with civilians. And civilians today many are just short-tempered and angry. Next slide, thank you. So just a few tips. Hire right. And I can't emphasize this enough. Thorough, good background checks. Check the references. Get a psych. Really understand who they are. And before we hire people, I highly recommend that they get a day on the engine. They get a day to see what we're doing. It is amazing how many how many individuals are at home and dream of being a firefighter. And the day they put on the boots, the first call they go out on, it is some tragedy. And the one that I'm thinking of involved 3 young girls that died up in the Bainbridge area. Day one on the job. They're coming home from soccer. The car goes off the road, drops about 20 feet. And this is a small community. The whole side of the road is lined with the civilians and the parents. And we had a 17-year-old driver and 2 14-year-old girls in the car, deceased. And this firefighter, first day on the job, does his job, comes back, drops his boots and says, I'm done. You know, we need to make sure that that mindset isn't something they think they want to do, but they understand what they're gonna do and see. Our poor firefighters right now in Lahaina, you know, this is these are the challenges that our people see on a regular basis that really make it a challenge to get up the next day and come back to work. So with that, termination, you know, before we get to that point, we want to make sure that we're on solid ground. You've talked to legal and make sure that your fires are well documented. You've talked to SDAO, but if we have a situation where we need to get a termination, we need to take the time to be thorough and exact. And this will sound funny, but I've learned in the hiring and firing business, always trust your gut. One of the first things that I hear from management when we have an ugly claim, and the one I'm thinking of right now had to do with a sexual molestation, a training officer several years ago, firefighter training officer. And there were some challenges and there were some allegations brought. We sat down and interviewed all the parties involved and worked with them. The very first thing out of every one of their mouths was, never liked them, never trusted them. I just had this gut feeling. And so often that gut feeling is right. Now we have to be legal and we have to be precise with how we hire and fire and don't hire. But I can tell you your gut is usually right. Next slide. Orientation. And forgive me, but when it comes to orientating our firefighters with fighting fire and EMS, we do it great. But when it comes to orientating our firefighters to our culture, who we are, we can't do that in 30 minutes. We can't give them the health insurance packet and run them through the process. We need to orientate them to who we are and take more time to make sure they understand. The worst thing we can do is get a brand new firefighter, put them in a house and have them have no idea about the culture, about how we interact as a family and what to do if there's a problem. Training, you know, I think it always amazes me. We do such a great job with fire training. We do our CPR every year and all the other trainings. And yet some of our policies and procedures that we write, and what we really want to do is link our policies with our practice. But we'll write a new policy on civil rights. And it's changed so much in the last 2 years. You know, yeah, you've seen it, you've read about it. Have we trained our people? You know, did we write the policy and get it out? And do we do it on a regular basis? If you wrote a policy in 2015 on civil rights and we haven't trained since then, we have a big hole. And that's the hardest thing in the world to do because we have so much training we have to do just to keep everybody current as a firefighter. Want to set the environment for success. Can we back that up about 5 seconds?
No editing public records.
Well, on that note, I'm out of here. So we want to set the environment right for success. Am I red? Like, I'm not feeling real good.
Buddy, I feel red. We're both red.
But Jeff, you're lucky, your redness will show, I will never show.
We want to set the environment for success. And I know that may sound just a little bit odd, but when we have a new hire, and I hinted at earlier, when you put them in a house, they really don't know the protocols. They really don't know who we are and how we are. So what we need to do is set it up so that they will win. They'll love the career, they'll fit in, and they know what it takes to be promoted. They know who we are, and they know our culture. So we want to set it up for success, so that they're going to be successful in their jobs. Interestingly enough, when we get a new hire, oftentimes we lose them. We hire them, we've done all the background work, now they're a firefighter, and we lose that communication. I recommend at least annually sitting with that firefighter, not talking about their job, but talking about their dreams. What do you want to do? Where are you at? And I think personally, the more we can involve them as human beings, make sure that they've got wills, make sure they understand how to buy a house, make sure they understand how to balance their checkbooks. How do you do a presentation? If they're gonna be an officer downstream, they have to know how to make a PowerPoint, but anything we can do to involve them, make them a better asset for us and for themselves. Next slide. Thank you so much. Onboarding all of our folks, whether it's a board member or a firefighter, is critical. And I think that one of the most important parts of the initial meeting we have with new firefighters is teach them who we are. What's our budget? What's our financial looks like? What are critical policies that impact you as a firefighter? Go through the last 5, 6, 7 board minutes with them. Show them what we're thinking about, what we're doing, what all of you are doing, all the hard work that you have. Show them the strategic plan and show them our standards of cover. Make sure that they have a grasp bigger than their job, their task job, but get them to start thinking strategically. That makes them a better value to us when they're in the community. So when somebody approaches them and says, hey, I see you spent $1 million on an engine the other day. What's that about? Well, here's how that works, and here's why we have to do it, and here's what's important about it. Make them an asset that can communicate well with our communities. Next, thank you. This is something that we overlook. We spend so much time training our firefighters, getting them to all the classes that they have to have. I'm gonna suggest that, and I know you do it here, but spend time also with the soft side of the house, not just our operations, but everything we do all day long with our civilians and with our firefighters. Get our management staff at least 1 or 2 through SHRMS. SHRMS is a great program. It costs some money. It takes a little bit of time to do it, but that's where our people will be interfacing with others that are in our field and swapping ideas. It's best to learn from Seattle or from Phoenix and prevent it from happening here than having it happen all over the country and just not being aware of it. Leadership training is always good, and you do a great job with that. Make sure that we're high and tight with our legal and accounting. And one of the things that I see departments do all the time is I'll ask the attorney, is this legal? And that's half the question we got to ask, and you're smiling because you know where I'm going with the other half. The other half is this smart? And I know that sounds funny, but you don't want the attorney on the other end to go, yeah, you can do that legally. And not go, but that's probably not the best thing you can do. So utilize our legal and accounting wisely. Contracting is a huge issue right now because contracts can take you potentially outside of your tort protection. So I want to make sure that we're very accurate, and I know your staff does a great job with that. And join your associations, be active in them. Next slide, please. A year ago, I talked to you about your duties and responsibilities. These first 3 are really for the board: set direction, ensure necessary resources, provide oversight. Next slide. This slide impacts everybody who works in the public service. Duty of care. You know, we We have to act as reasonable, prudent human beings, whether we're on a fire scene or in the grocery store. And it's important that all of our firefighters know that this job is a higher calling in life. It's different than working for a for-profit company. So it's important that they realize that they're always on stage, whether they're here at work or not. Their neighbors watch who they are and what they are. We just need our firefighters to understand that we have to act in a reasonable, prudent way. Duty of loyalty. When they're employed here, they're loyal here. If they're on a board of directors someplace else, or if they have an issue with the fire department, when they work here, that issue stays here. It's great to talk about it with the management team. It's great to talk about it with their supervisor, but they're loyal to this organization. And the duty of obedience to who we are, mission, vision, values, and our strategic plan. Next slide, please. Thank you. One of the things that, and I have not spoke to your firefighters for some time, but if I do, one of the things I'm going to coach your firefighters and each of you is that you live an integrated life, and you will never be able to take off Clackamas Fire logo. Whether you're wearing it or not, whether you're fishing, whether you're in a restaurant, your civilians see you as a public employee, as a public servant. And we have to coach our folks when they're at the soccer game, coaching the kids, and a civilian comes up and starts screaming in your ear. We may not be on the clock, we may not be getting paid, but we are a representative of this great organization, and we need to act above reproach. I cannot tell you how many careers I have seen ended for activities non-related to work. And all I want to do is coach those folks. Don't let that be you. Next slide. Our folks do live in a perfect storm. Yes, please.
Going back to what do you mean by a Rotarian coach?
Pardon me?
Rotarian or coach, it was a Rotarian.
Oh, so a Rotarian, you're on the board, you're a Rotarian, or you're a coach of a team.
Service,
It's kind of your personal life. So, yeah, and forgive me if I didn't do this very well, but if it's work related, you as board members, whether it's a board meeting or working on your budget versus your personal life of being a coach or on the Rotary board or on the Kiwanis Club or with your family, you're always, if you will, integrated with this work because of who you are. We're public servant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll change that slide next time, and I appreciate it. We live in a perfect storm. And you're going to be pulled as board members, our firefighters are going to be pulled by civilians who are unhappy, and you're seeing this in the paper right now with another Oregon fire district. It's been in the paper quite a bit. You're going to be pulled every way you can be. And the thing that I coach all my folks, all my firefighters, and each of you is just stay focused on who we are and what our job is. Last slide. Oh, it's not the last slide. One of the things that I coach all of us is how our civilians see us. And the things they look at us, are we trustworthiness? And interestingly enough, Simon Sink has a great video out about SEALs. And SEALs have a matrix on trust and performance. And they will compromise performance for trust every time. And our civilians, it's important that they trust it. We're going to their homes. We're packaging their family and taking them to the hospital. And that trust is important that we never violate. Respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, citizenship. We're public servants. And if our citizenship isn't good for who we are in our community, it's not a good thing. So we need to lead in all of those areas. Next slide. This is the last slide. What I always coach everybody is do the rights. Do the right thing, right time, right way, right attitude for the right reasons. And that's almost always pretty sound. So what I want to leave you with is when it comes to operations, squirting water, chopping holes, package patients, nobody does it better. The challenges we see today are not at the fire scene. If they are at the fire scene, it's a civilian interaction, but it's all the other things that we do that we have problems and challenges. Questions I can answer. I'm about 3 minutes over what I promised the chief I would be at.
Actually, Jeff, I want to make a couple of comments. I want to go back to what you were talking about with, operations on the street, how our society's changed and all this stuff. So, I don't know if you know now, but I'm working for AMR in Multnomah County now. And I'm running 10 or 12 shifts a month out of in Multnomah County. And I've been a paramedic for a long time. And one of the things that, you say society's changed and there's some additional challenges out there. But also, there's a lot of people out there still that are still having medical emergencies that need help, that are very, very nice and wonderful people.
Yeah,
And even, I'll tell you what, even though you have some people out there that will take the fentanyl overdose, they're unconscious, we do stuff, we wake them up, most of them are very nice. Most of them actually are very nice and they're appreciative that they're not dead.
Yeah.
And then they go about their life. And it's honestly very few that are nasty. And you treat them with dignity and respect. But the problem is you get back in your rig or you get back to your station, you focus on the 1 or 2 people that were not so nice and the call was hard, not the 10 people that you really did provide a great service for and they were very nice back to you.
Yeah.
And that's a leadership thing, I agree, but there's still, the bulk of the work is still traditional, if you will. It's just there's more non-traditional part, but we have a tendency to focus on that, if that makes sense.
It does, it does.
So and that is a leadership. It's like, get your mind right. The whole world isn't about the changes. Most of it is traditional. So I just throw that out as, it's not as doom and gloom as maybe I received it from you on when you were doing your presentation. So,
Thank you.
I don't know, Nick, if you guys chief officer want to say something about that, but that's my perspective. So,
A lot of the calls are good calls.
Some of it is the perception from us. We expect everybody to be nice to us because we are firefighters, because we are providing this. We have an expectation, unrealistic expectation is created. When someone acts against that, we go berserk.
that's true.
And to amplify what you said, I mentioned earlier that 40 firefighters in a four-month period of time were attacked. How many calls did Seattle run on? We're seeing the anomaly and I want to shine light on that. And do our best to protect our firefighters, but also have them have the tools when they are, how to communicate. And I'll choose my words carefully. How we might have interacted with a civilian 20 years ago at a call, today's different. We need different verbal skills dealing with individuals. And it does appear that a lot of individuals are pretty short-tempered today.
I would support that fully. I think there's been a shift. And I think, you have pockets where, as Jeff's presentation, right, there's a couple hot spots that he was speaking to specifically, but in our local area, I've seen the shift. So this is very fitting. And if you don't call it out now, then we're gonna be behind the ball. So we are fortunate in our area, and in our community base, that we have the love and the support, but don't kid yourself, right? That's easy to lose. And the feeling and the arguing on the street corner, it exists here, right? And the people are a little bit, more, I don't want to say the word for fragile is the wrong word, but just the relationships are fragile. They're not as loose as you could be before. Words matter. And so I think that this is very fitting. I didn't necessarily take it as being doom and gloom. I think this is a realistic look at maybe not what we're seeing now, but what's coming. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
My last comment is, that's also, I'm not criticizing Portland or Metro, but Nick or Steve or what, this fire district is connected with the community. They identify, when we talk about Clackamas Fire, people think about Nick Brown or Steve Dader. So these are the people out there in the community with whether it's a Happy Valley Business Alliance or Rotary or Chamber. So they can identify and personify, these people personify I don't think that personal touch cannot happen in a huge area like Portal Metro. So there is a separation, it is them and then here it's all us.
Appreciate all that you do and the service that you provide. I don't think there's a more important service than fire and life safety. Power is nice, water's nice, fire and life safety is most. And you're smiling, but I don't think there's a more important service to provide a community. And I will tell you, every time you roll, it's that individual's worst day. And for us to, it's not just another call for us. It's appreciating where they're at, and nobody does it better than you do. So, I want to thank you for letting me come up. Nobody slept, you could have, but you do get the credit if I can help, yes.
It's fitting, during the presentation, I tapped Steve. This is something organizationally that we've started working on. And so, I promise you, we didn't talk before this presentation. But the professional development stuff, or as far as the strategic, like a lot of what Jeff was speaking to is what our next 3-year focus is internally. And so that was a very fitting presentation there.
Thank you.
The timing of that was.
But that's why you lead, because you're in front of the tower curve.
Appreciate you.
Always an honor to be here. Thank you for letting me come up.
Thanks, John.
Anything I can do for
Making
you?
the trip and for a very thought-provoking presentation.
Heck yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Be safe.
Appreciate you.
I will be sending you analysis on injuries and fatalities.
Love that. Thanks, bro.
Okay, moving on, business action required. B1, request board approval of the purchase of 2 quick response vehicles, 1 type 6 brush truck, and 1 fleet services pickup. Support services officer, Bill Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Since I am the only business item tonight, I'm gonna try to make this quick, so it won't be like half hour or so. So, actually, my presentation is as submitted.
Everyone behind me is leaving.
Yeah.
I know, safe trip back.
But I am here to answer any questions from what was submitted. The pricing is fairly accurate on the purchases of the chassis. And there will be a subsequent upcoming staff report for apparatus and the bodies for these vehicles.
Is this part of the expenses from the levy? Thank you.
Yes, the quick response rigs especially. Yeah.
Is the F-350 pickup, that's a complete pickup or just a chassis?
That's the pickup. That's before setup.
So we're getting 3 550 chassis?
Correct.
Is the 350 a chassis or a full pickup?
That's a full pickup.
You stole
We do get a state contract price.
it. You stole it.
Applaud him. Applaud, say nice things.
I am, I'm trying to, trying to figure out Maryland's sitting here, otherwise they'd ask how I get one.
I will say that if I tried ordering this not even a year ago, I wouldn't have gotten state contract price. They were not honoring government pricing. It was retail. If any state agency or government agency wanted any vehicle from Ford, Chevy, and Dodge, they were all not offering that, and they were making everybody pay retail.
Any other comments or questions for Bill? Okay, guess not. Thank you. So, do I hear a motion for the board to approve the purchase, which is within budget, of 2 quick response vehicles, 1 type 6 budget truck, and 1 fleet services pickup?
So moved.
Brush truck, Maryland, not budget. You said budget truck.
I'm sorry.
Brush truck.
Thank you. Brush truck.
We need a budget truck.
We might need a budget truck.
So I have moved, okay, it's been moved and seconded. Shelby, please call the roll.
Jay,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
thank you. Other business, no action.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, board committee and liaison reports, civil service commission, Director Haas.
I will have to pass on to Assistant Chief Peters because I was not able to attend. We had a quick one, I think.
It was just approving the process that it just happened and the promotional list and then the payroll for the year as required by the civil service. Very short, about 17 minutes. Because Chris wasn't there.
Ooh.
Ouch.
That's on public meeting too, Chris. Shots across the bow.
Okay, so I understand there is no EMS committee, report, no executive committee report, foundation liaison, Director Ross.
Actually, I got a few. Let's start with, we can start with the foundation. We had a foundation meeting. Jerry might want to add on to this, but basically we met the new event planner. She's taking, donations and she's taking sponsors for tables and she's trying to fill the tables with people and she's trying to fill the place with auction items. And it sounds like she's doing great work. She had a lot of energy. It was actually fun to listen to her talk. And so that's all happening right now. And also the foundation at that meeting also was taking care of some the standard banking things and trying to the statements and all that, getting that whole thing squared away from the treasurer, the missing treasurer thing that we had. So it sounds like that's all headed in the right direction now. And that's good. Jerry's saying, yep, we're there. Okay, good.
We have the paperwork in hand to sign and get back to Merrill Lynch and the bank.
Good.
And
And you guys probably remember the foundation had some struggles with the MIA treasurer and they had to do some quick thinking to get that whole thing figured out, but it sounds like we're doing really well in there. And so that's a good thing to see. And then I guess those are the big ones that happened. So, but yeah, the event sounds like it's gonna be another really good one this year. Hopefully get more people out to that. Okay, let's go to NAFO. That'll be quick. We finally have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday. So we'll see how that plays out, how that works. OSHA, I did the OSHA meeting. Brian's not here. I was gonna talk to him, but I want a rulemaking task force for non-entry firefighters with OSHA. We spent 2.5 hours talking about everything that's happened up to this point, but we made no movement forward. All we did was talk about what's happened up to this point. So that was interesting. And then OFDDA, conference. It's ready to go. It's gonna be a good one. Go to the OFDDA website, take a look at the stuff, get signed up. It's gonna be a really good conference. It's over at Seaside. November 2, 3, 4. I'll be going over there on the 1st. Shelby, I made my hotel reservations for 1st, 2nd, 3rd. I'll give the receipts to you. We'll talk about that in November when that comes, but like we had talked or emailed, so that's all done. Yeah, so it's gonna be a good conference, so I would encourage you to take a look at the schedule of events and hopefully get signed up to go if you're interested in learning some new stuff.
Director Cross, is that out now on the website?
Yes, it's good to go.
Okay,
It's
so
all-
we can send that to the board members and then, okay.
Yeah, it's all, I was in there today looking at it and it actually got up about 3 weeks ago, but we had a meeting 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, and yeah, I guess it was fun. Saturday last weekend. So yeah, it's all good. It's good stuff. The committee, the board worked really hard at this conference, making Seaside this year a really good one because now we feel like we're all of OFDDA, and the conference, we're back to our stride, our post-COVID stride, if you will. You know, everything was slow getting running again, but I think we're back where we should be, and it's good. There's a lot of new folks around the state that are new elected officials around the state that are participating and learning, and Isaac obviously too is going to be at the conference doing a presentation there. He's got a 2-hour block of time talking about social media and PIO work, so amongst other things. But yeah, take a look at the schedule. It's gonna be a good one. So that's all.
Any questions? Okay. Okay, thank you. Interagency Committee, Directors Joseph and Siri. Anything?
We had an oversight committee with Sandy. That's the only meeting we had, right? Sandy, the directors and Jim and I with the chief and state leaders met. They had a good report of progress. Everybody seemed to be happy. Jim, do you want to add anything to it?
No, it was a good meeting. We have another one scheduled here soon, so we're gonna meet once a month for a while and keep up the communications that we felt that was important to meet monthly for a while. So we're continuing on with a great relationship.
The next one, Shelby, is it already scheduled? I know you were doing a doodle, but.
It's next Thursday, the
31st.
31st. And I sent a calendar invite, but I can send it again.
31st?
11 a.m.
10.
10 a.m. Oh, I was off.
What time?
It's 11 o'clock somewhere.
I believe it's at 10, next Thursday. Yeah, 10 a.m. Joint Oversight Committee, and it will be, at the Sandy Main Station. I will resend that invite.
It's on my calendar, okay?
It's on your calendar?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Anything else? And then I have a volunteer association liaison, Director Sharing. Any report?
Yeah, no meeting this past month to report on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, OB2, board informational updates and comments. Anybody have anything they want to share? I do. I want to thank the chief and Isaac Hamilton. I was approached by my CPO to deal with a communication problem that they were having with the fire district, and the chief solved it in quick order and made it all look really good. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Informational reports, Office of the Fire Chief.
Awesome. Okay, so just in light of this presentation, I just would like to hit on a couple things and then I'll give you an update for the last month, which will kind of encompass some of what Chief Stewart was going to speak to, as well as Chief Moore. But I want to highlight on that presentation from Jeff, page 2, slide 4 and 5, workplace culture, injuries, health, wellness, fitness, employment-related issues, theft, embezzlement, turnover, new hire orientation, promotions, demotions, all of those things that were listed there as far as HR challenges. Those are situations which we currently have not seen at a grand scale, but we have at a smaller scale. And I wrote the board an email today, and I sent it at about 2 o'clock, I think. And on there was a link, and that's a culture survey link. And the purpose of that culture survey is that as an organization, a couple meetings back, we spoke at a very high level about the 2 strategies that we're going to have for our strategic business plan for the next 3 years. And those 2 strategies are focused on our people and response reliability as far as our organizational objectives. The last couple of years, we've had a hyper focus on the financial management stability of the organization based on the situation that we were in. Now we're focusing on our people and we're focusing on the response reliability. And so part of that is we've hired a leadership company, All American Leadership, and their link is in that email that I sent to you. That gives a little bit deeper background on them, but the focus on that is to identify our culture and to name it, and utilizing our people to help in that, as well as information from you as board members. So I would greatly appreciate it if you would take the time to take that survey. It's open for a week. It's put on by a third party that I don't see results on. I mean, All American Leadership doesn't see the results on. We don't see the results until we all see them together. So, but the reason that I'm highlighting the HR challenges is because we've identified a lot of these things that are going to be the focus for the next 3 years as an organization with this professional development and the implementation of the emergency services levy. I would expect a work session with the board in October to walk through some of the results from this survey, as well as really having that hyper focus on where we currently are and where we're going as an organization.
the next piece to this, which I'm not gonna steal Steve's thunder, but is the human resource officer position. That is one of the reasons that we felt, charged to go out and to bring on that position of a human resource officer. Our people are the best thing about this organization. But with that, we're living in a world that's full of tumult and chaos. And so getting our people the right resources and taking care of our people and developing our people is something that this board has committed to since I've been in this organization. We just unfortunately, as an organization, haven't been able to really truly implement anything towards that. So I'm excited about that opportunity as an organization that we're putting a focus on that so that we can actually have our actions match our words. And that's something that the board has directed. 10 plus years ago, I remember sitting in a meeting, listening to the board talking about professional development and succession. We're actually gonna be putting that into play here. So I'm gonna get off that high horse and speak to a little bit of updates of what Clackamas Fire family has been up to the last month. Just again, I say this almost every single meeting, but I need to just give a shout out to community services and the work that they're doing out in the community. So many presentations, national night out, just a lot of the community events. It's something that you're gonna see from us. We've always been good at that, but we're really having that full court press out in the community and engagement with the community. And so it's just been doing a great job. We had quite a few incidents of pretty substantial incidents last month. Our crews were involved in the deputy shooting on Springwater. And that is something that you don't, firefighters don't ever like to see as one of their own hurt or one of their partners in service hurt. And so responding to that, our crews did a phenomenal job. They gave the law enforcement officers the best care that they could have had in a quick order. The crew that responded to that call is actually on today. And it's talking to the lieutenant that was running that call. It brings peace of mind for me as a fire chief, knowing that our strategic partners, as well as if it just so happened to be my family, the level of service that's coming. And I don't know if our citizens actually realize the caliber of firefighters that they have. So pretty fortunate that we get to serve side by side with the firefighters and paramedics that we have as citizens, and that's speaking as a citizen here. We had a 4-story apartment complex. We touched on that a little bit last board meeting. Crews did a phenomenal job limiting damage and extinguishing that in Happy Valley. But we also had a murder-suicide officer-involved shooting call that involved a younger individual. And going on calls like that, again, the mental trauma that puts our people through is really, really rough. I responded to that scene, and the battalion chief was doing a phenomenal job running and managing the scene and taking care of the people involved, not only taking care of our people, but taking care of law enforcement as well. It's a blessing to be able to serve with the people that we have here at all levels, not only operationally, but on the administrative and support side as well. We have people that raise their right hand to swear an oath for the mission. And a lot of them are sitting here in this room today and are examples of that. But in all facets of this organization, they believe in the mission and they just demonstrate that day in and day out. So that's the end of my report. I'd like to answer any questions if you have them.
Chris?
One more fire.
One more fire? Oh, you did the second. Yeah, thank you. That was August, and that's why I didn't touch, but I love that you're gonna hit on that. Thank you.
I should have. Monday last week, there was a fire in the Sandy River Canyon. I've had the brilliant idea for the last, 4 years. When I ran for the board, I ordered 500 business cards, and they sent me 500 business cards 3 times. So I figured, what the heck, they got your number and email, so I hand them out. And I've handed them out in the neighborhood that I used to live in There's a little neighborhood pub that I hang out, and I know people, I've known them for years, and they have that card. About 7 o'clock Monday morning, my phone blew up. They wanna know what's going on. There was smoke coming out of the canyon. These are the same people that not long ago I told them we weren't gonna just take the money and run. We weren't gonna leave Sandy, we would take care of them. The chief can talk about the fire next time, but one thing to keep in mind is, I don't know in Oregon history, the last time there was a 2-acre fire that had 2 airplanes and a helicopter dumping water on it less than 3 hours after it was reported. We made a believer out of a guy that I went to high school with, who was a skeptic, but he works for Fish and Wildlife. And he said, however you did that, I'm convinced, I won't say anything more. What was amazing is not just firefighters, and that's why I sent you guys the email. It was so important because it's not like a normal neighborhood. You don't know what's going on. All they could do was sit at the edge of the canyon, and it's blue hole from there. It's gotta be a half a mile as a crow flies. Walking in, it's gotta be 3/4 of a mile or better.
Yeah, I think we had about a mile, right, Phil?
Including the rope that I can't tell you how it got there. It's not, I don't know. But Tracy was doing Facebook updates that were keeping that entire community informed. One of Tracy's Facebook updates got shared 77 times inside of an hour. Another one was 55 times.
I was watching those too.
Those people knew what was going on, they could trust the information, they didn't panic, and it was wonderful. And I can tell you, you guys, Nick and Phil, were standing in front of a house, and the little old lady you were talking to was the mother of a girl I dated in high school, who called me to ask if she was gonna lose the house that her husband built for him in the 60s.
Yeah.
And I told her she wouldn't, and you guys kept me from being a liar, so I appreciate it. But mostly what Tracy did, we think about the guys out chopping holes and spraying water. Just as important was what she was doing. She kept the neighborhood from panicking. They knew it was okay. They didn't panic. They weren't running around driving, blocking the roads. It was vital, and what she did was great. So, thank you, Tracy.
Thanks for saying that, Chris.
Anybody else have any comments? Okay, report from Assistant Chief Dieter is on the Office of Business Services.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'm talking a little bit about July. July was very packed for most of us, and Nick kind of stole the community services thunder, but they did a fantastic job, and he let me go on vacation for 1 week of that, which was fantastic. I appreciated that.
It was touch and go.
Yeah.
We probably won't let that happen again.
Yeah, but we packed a lot in there, and then in the middle of that was the Sandy transition. For the month of July, that station ran 219 calls. The rescue took 105 of those. The importance of that is that's 105 times that engine was available to the rest of the community, and they did get called for quite a few times of those. Anyway, so very successful month. We're still working on a few IT problems, but nothing that affects the mission. So, but for the most part, everything's great. Phil and he's been taking us on the meet and greet tour still. I don't know where he has the time to meet all these folks, but I think he just stops and there happens to be people we could talk to. But, for the most part, he's been taking us around, kind of introducing us, starting with that community, takeover there. And again, I'm familiar with CNS.
His face has been around that community a long time.
Yeah,
So I really all know.
yeah, somebody asked me today if I was gonna grow a mustache so that they could be reminded of him, and I just said I'm not that creepy. And I wanna remain married, so no, I'm not gonna go.
As Thomas is going over his mustache.
We do have an academy starting in September, a new academy of line firefighters, so that's gonna be exciting. The apprentice program, they graduate the program on August 31st. So we're excited about that. Hopefully you got an invite to that, or is it a closed event?
No, it should be an open, do you guys, will you check your calendars, make sure you have an invite for that? They should have been sent
For
out
the
last week.
apprenticeship academy,
Yeah,
they
they
just
should,
received
it
that.
got sent out last.
Okay, great.
Okay, perfect.
And then, in other news, it is fitting, Chief talked about the presentation we just went through, and we have been in the background working on a lot of these areas, and which led us to look at our needs in HR and lead us to the decision that we needed to search for something a little bit different. So we did do that search. We did a nationwide search, and we had panels narrow it down to 14, I believe, is what was interviewed. Yeah.
It was 10, but that's fine.
10?
Yeah.
Okay, 10. I'm counting the 4 that we ended up talking to. So it was 10, and then they narrowed down to the top 4.
Yes.
And we did extend a job offer. He is in the background checks right now. And so he has very similar experience to our organization, at least county organizations. So we're excited to introduce him to you folks when everything's clear and he's working here. So happy to answer any questions.
Questions for AC leaders? Okay, thank you. Office of Financial Services, CFO, whatever, please.
Okay, good evening, everybody. So just a quick update on finances. The finance report starts on page 17 of your packet. This is a repeat of the last 2 months because it shows the year-end financials as of June 30th. There is quite a significant update compared to last month. These are the final numbers that I sent to the auditor, so they shouldn't change much. But I believe last month I was suggesting we'd end the year with just over $1 million in surplus, and that has fallen to about 750,000. And the key component of that is our claims run out from our health insurance, or our health plan, basically. So we had a lot of claims come in July. So our claims run out in July alone was 700,000. Last year, our claims run out for the entire 12 months was only 500,000. So we just had some really large claims towards the end of 22-23. Thankfully, we had the budget for that, budgeted in 22-23, so we were able to expense that back to last year's budget, but it did cut into the surplus that I was expecting, but still ended the year on a positive note. So did not include in the finance report an update on the current year budget. Since we're only a month and a half in, there's not a lot of news there, but things are trending pretty well. I think the last 2 years at this point, I would have probably come to you and already said that we were over budget on ops replacement, and we're not there this year. So we had a higher budget, a more realistic budget, I think, and we're trending well there. Revenues are also trending well with the Oregon City Urban Renewal funds coming back at least temporarily. Due to the high insurance claims, we're seeing stop loss payments come in, and also interest is gonna remain high through the rest of the calendar year, so that'll bring in extra revenue. So I think we're trending well. Well enough that at this point, I don't think we'll need to do tax anticipation notes this fiscal year. So normally I would come to you at the next board meeting and request authorization for those. Based on my current forecast, I don't anticipate I'll be doing that, but I'll keep you posted, but I wouldn't expect it. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, because of the surplus, our cash is a little higher than normal, and also due to the IGAs with Sandy and Gladstone, their quarterly payments come in and also help with our cash balance. Although obviously that increases our expenditures as well, the timing of it works out. And then my last update is just that we did have the auditors on site here last week to start the 22-23 audit. So I'm feeling comfortable that we'll be able to have the audit presented to you before the end of the year and meet our deadline without an extension. So that's also good news, I think. And that's it, unless there's any questions.
When do we start receiving the levy funds from the state, from the county?
The roads will probably be beginning of November.
That comes with the property tax?
Yeah, so it won't be on the property tax that the county will probably send out, mid-October, late October, right?
So we already started spending some of that. We receipt of those, for example, the vehicles,
Well,
They're ordered, they're not paid for.
or they are not paid for.
Well,
yeah, but for example, so we'll start a new academy in September, right? And those
But that's part
recruits
of
are
the
largely
levy?
funded by the levy, right? But it's, so in a way, we are pre-spending some of it, but it's all within our budget authority, so it's fine.
The pre-spending doesn't take anything away from our regular operations, but.
No, it's all planned for, yeah.
Thank you.
Could you tell me what the components are in your other revenue category, which was positive by like 37%? I mean, that's a big swing. Where we got all that additional revenue from, are you printing money now?
Yeah.
Geocaching?
Bitcoin.
So other revenue, that's. Sorry, there's a lot of different ways I classify these. So other revenue is a couple of the biggest pieces are, probably, you know, health plan reimbursements, so you've got stop loss payments in there. We have, the other big piece are workers comp claims, right? So safe payments, for workers that are out on injury leave. We continue to pay them, and in return, we get the reimbursements from safe. We've got,
Is that revenue?
we treat it as revenue. I mean, it's a reimbursement, right?
Mhm.
And so, sorry, I'm blanking on what the other things might be, but that's the biggest ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
Thank you.
But I can send you more, the full breakdown later.
I just was astonished that we have miscellaneous unspecified other revenue that was 30% over budget.
Right, and it's compressed for this report, like, it has additional categories and that I can detail out.
Is the GEMT stuff in there?
No, the GMTs and the EMS revenues,
Got it.
so above that,
Okay.
which was also one that greatly exceeded expectations.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right.
Marilyn, I have one small that I forgot on my presentation, if it's okay. I do,
Well, okay.
it's a go back. I do like to turn over some time to Chief Schneider, just as far as, I know he loves it when I do this to him, and it's just impromptu.
Thought he was getting
He'd like to
away.
get away scot-free, but just, for some small updates as far as, Sandy and things in his world.
The floor is yours, Chief.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Chief. No, it's been great. I've gotten to work with almost everybody and just, I love it. It's been a great transition all the way through, all positive. Yeah, some good stuff. I'm on the wildland and, I'm getting tagged in with the Highway 26 corridor outreach, with Brentwood, which you guys, he's a specialist on that. Doing some cool things up at Timberline Lodge on October 15th. We're gonna do an all-day film festival on all the fires. And then we're gonna put a group together that's gonna answer those questions for the public. I've been working a little bit on we're starting to redo the natural hazard mitigation plan. It's been 5 years and that needs to be done by the end of the year. So working with University of Oregon on that. The Clackamas County Wildland Protection Plan is also up and it's in final review. So yeah, a lot of good stuff is going on around the wildland. So.
Would you speak to the panel cameras and specifically that Sandy fire and how we were sitting here at our CNG meeting and able to watch live updates?
And you got a phone call at 6:30?
Exactly it.
Yeah, you know, I'm pretty involved with the panel because I really believe in it. It's this new technology that's really popped out there and it's just been showing 100% on these fires. And that one I got paged before the guys were even going out the door. Same thing, looked at the fire and thought, you know, we have a fire in the canyon. And I called you and you already had it on the screen for our meeting that we had on Monday morning. So that was pretty interesting. And then hopefully we'll have a good article. I got a call the other day and Bloomberg back in New York did an interview with them on the panel and got to throw the Clackamas name in there a few times. So that's gonna be a pretty cool. This gal writes for New York Times and they go to 150 countries. So new technology, people are just striving for, you know, what are we gonna do for them and what are we looking forward into the future to give them information. And when you can sit there and watch in your backyard most of the landscape, it's a pretty good feeling. So.
Excuse me, Phil.
Yeah.
Could you enlighten me a little bit on this? I'm not sure.
So
about this.
the panel is just a brand, it's the new cameras, that are being put up. There's more than 10 in all of our area, just in the eastern area from Timberline over to San Ignacio area right now. There's 10 cameras in our area that run 360 degrees and they take a photo every minute So you go to panel and you scan the whole landscape. They're AI, so it's.
Who monitors them?
What's that? So there is a company that's monitoring them, and then, so it goes from the AI technology to a human, and then gets paged out. I have it on my phone. We've shared it with all types, and I have the ability to share it with the incident commander, so when they're on scene, they can get it and pull it up for 24 hours. But it gives you full visuals on a big scale. Well, we've had tons of big ones lately, but even the one on 224 we had the other day, same thing. I was actually in a meeting, you and I were in a meeting, and so I didn't really look at my phone because I saw SK on, oh, we'll look at when we get out. When I got out, it was pretty big fire over there, and we have the capability of going in digitally like 30 times. We shared that, and we were watching the airdrops from Sandy, from the Linhart View Tower on the 800 tower, watching the seaplanes go in and drop, actually see the water dropping. So the technology out there, again, is just incredible. It's a tool, but it's been like just Timberline, one picked up the Semnasho fire. There was 1,200 acres, you know, a month back. So it's a widespread of the landscape.
You could zoom in to where you see how you can see the leaves from the tree. I could see the leaves from the tree
With the camera?
with the
Yeah,
camera
yeah.
that we could control and zoom in. Yes, that could.
We could actually see the boaters
So
on
do you
224.
get to access control or the,
He has the access and,
or you have the access?
and sends the link and then.
We're sharing, there's already 60 licenses now they've given. Again, you credit PGE is one of the big providers that they feel is very important. Again, they're looking out for their own well-being as well, but they're sharing it with all the end users, which being the chiefs. So, and then we're sharing it. So it's,
The technology is fantastic. Now, coming down the human element part.
Yeah.
Are you in touch with the fire, the crews from Sandy, plus you? The crews from the Sandy, how do you have a sense of the corporate culture of the Clackamas Fire and their integration? Do you have any connect with them or do you?
yeah, no, I just go and it's all positive. It's been good. Yeah. all
So
of it.
you are in touch
Yeah,
with them?
yeah, I talked to quite a few of them. They're
Getting a
enjoying it.
pulse?
Yep.
What they feel and
Yeah.
how they are.
They're like it.
I know you are very happy, you are super happy. Even before integration, you were, every time we see you, but I want to hear.
Yeah.
If you are feeling the real pulse of your crew of the integration.
I'd say 70% or more I've talked to, and all positive.
Yeah,
They're really enjoying some of the new opportunities that they're getting.
that's part of the corporate culture I'm talking about. It's not, you know, mentoring and training. It is a big part of getting the integration.
I mean, we have new guys, you know, every day coming out Sandy and they're part of it's just part of the team. I mean, make everybody feel very welcome. So from day one, so
Glad to hear.
it's been good. Good stuff.
Any other comments for Commissioner? Okay, thank you. All right, volunteer association report. Volunteer coordinator Ryan Fredro and president Michael Morton.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. You can see we're trending over the last few months, like 12 nights at Station 12. We're on the uptick, like I promised, as we graduated the academy. At Station 12, we had 19 out of 31. Station 74, which is the Dover station in off of Furwood and Sandy, we had 17 out of 31. And then rehab from at home response, they covered it 17 out of 31, but there hasn't been an incident where rehab hasn't gotten out. So we still have people responding. For training, we did some district familiarization because Sandy is different than Clackamas. So we spent the first Wednesday out at the Sandy Fire District getting familiar with their facilities and equipment and how to pump that brush rig. So it's a little bit different than ours and how things are stored on there. Then we did the flip flop on the following Wednesday where all the Sandy folks came out and looked at Clackamas, and we've had a pretty seamless integration of people being able to work both at Station 12 and Station 74 just because of the cross training and people being willing to fill the need. It's not just Sandy volunteers staying at Sandy. We have Sandy folks that have been longtime Sandy volunteers working out at Station 12 when we're empty in the south because we've shipped off some of our assets
to help support some of the state efforts. So, it's been awesome. And then we've had some Clackamas folks come out to Sandy to help support that too. So, what else we got cooking? We did some wildland brush pumping. The nice thing about some of the Sandy residents is they have some property that we can get out and play on. As you know, well, you may not know this, but if you continually train in the same environment, it just becomes routine and not very realistic. You just kind of go through the motions. So we switched it up one Wednesday night and put it on this guy's property where you can drive a brush rig through some trees, and you have a narrow 1-lane road where you have to set up a porta tank, kind of maybe off the side and back some tenders up to that. So it was a more realistic environment where a farmer or somebody working on their ag field might have accidentally set a fire, and we had to respond to it with blackberry bushes and trees in a structure. Then, like all good things, you always have to practice fundamentals. So at the end of the month, we kind of wound up with just a fundamentals workstation day, and just throwing ladders, pulling hose, and forcing doors, and that it was nice to get back to those skills, kind of the bread and butter, and just make sure we still have that skill set there. Then it was busy with the transition, getting everything dialed up. I mean, it feels like it was so long ago, but July 1st, transition went smooth. And then July 4th, the volunteer station was second in on a fire at Mart in Sandy and helped with extinguishment there on a roof fire. So it was pretty exciting. It's been an exciting month. I'm gonna let President Morton, after I wrap up, talk about the special events we're engaged in. If there's any questions, I'll take those at this time.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there some particular reason why we're 0 for 31 at Station 13?
Operations Chief has directed me that we are to make Station 12 and Station 74 our priority, and Station 13 is to come after that. So that is why
Certainly is.
that is why we're that way.
We have some work that we are starting to begin focusing on in preparation for the implementation of that being staffed 24/7 in July. So living quarters, the bay, so has not began, hasn't started, but that's where the ops chief is directed. The two primary locations are gonna be into the Ryan just spoke to.
Jim, anything?
Okay.
Okay.
Also, just on a side note, we had a volunteer firefighter from Sandy. His house caught fire right after the transition, and Sandy crews responded, or Clackamas crews responded out of Station 7-1, technically in the Hoodland district, but the Clackamas Fire Emergency Services Foundation stepped up and supported the family, and was able to put together a generous donation to kind of help them bridge the gap. And it meant a ton to them, and it was all right around the swearing in. The wife was concerned whether she's even gonna have a dress to be able to wear to the swearing in ceremony. And so it was, the Clackamas family came around them fantastically. And then just the other day, I think this will be in the August report, but I'm just gonna touch on it. We probably responded as far east as Sandy goes. I think we went around a corner and down another hill. We technically be in Multnomah County and Corbett's fire district, but we responded to a Corbett volunteer firefighter's house that was right on the edge of our district, and helped put out the fire. Rush 374 was there along with a bunch of other apparatus, but the Emergency Services Foundation again stepped up and just helped the fire community and a family in our fire district kind of bridge the gap until insurance gets there. Because there seems to be, from my experience, there seems to be about a 3-day lag before insurance kind of kicks in, and maybe Red Cross can put things together. So Emergency Services Foundation has been a fantastic asset, and having the money on the frontline apparatus it's peace of mind for moms and dads who are like, the kids' stuff just burned up and they're gonna start school in 2 weeks, and we don't know where we're gonna go for the next, 6 months while the house is being fixed. So the board and the foundation have done a great job being able to help people in that gap.
So Can I get you to write that down?
Yeah.
Because at the auction, when I get up there and talk about the stuff that the foundation's been doing for the community, I wanna be able
Speak to
to
that.
speak to that.
I'll send you an email.
Great.
Any other questions? Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
Okay, President Morgan.
Madam President, Board, this last month, we've done a lot of community service, getting out into the community, joining with Sandy, we got out and did both the fireworks, and we're at the Sandy Mountain Festival. We had both the volunteers and the explorers from Sandy working out there. We also helped support the 4th of July festival here in Happy Valley, along with the parade and everything they did there. We did a bunch of public education with the Sandy Mountain Festival, along with Day in Damascus. We had volunteers out there with the fire extinguisher prop, teaching people how to use the fire extinguisher and everything, and just going over all the things that we expect people don't think about, but you can come about in a house fire and whatnot, getting out. And then we also went to the first responder memorial or mural dedication in Sandy that they had. They've got a nice mural that they painted on the side of the Catholic church, I think it was, out there. So, also, we've been bringing together all the Sandy guys, and we've all been integrating great. We had a couple of hiccups that we found with policy differences, but we're working through that and getting it all ironed out so that everybody's smooth and happy. And we're starting to prep for the Hilltop Safety Fair, so making sure that we're gonna have good staffing for that and can be ready for everything there. And also, next month, we'll have a report on our annual support of the 4-H and the FAA at the Clackamas Fair that we do. We buy some of their animals for the local kids that are here in the community. So otherwise, that's all I've got for you. If there's any questions or.
Questions, President? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Okay. All right, we have correspondence items, informational items. Anybody want to comment on any of them? Anything else for the good order?
Yeah, one small informational item after you.
What's Crew 30 up to right now?
And that's literally my informational item. So if that's okay, if I
Yeah,
dive
absolutely.
in right now, Marilyn? Okay, so Crew 30 and Chief Olson, they returned back from Alaska, and had their mandatory rest period, and Crew 30, as we speak, is en route to Southern Oregon. They just got mobilized to the Palmer Creek fire. And they'll begin assignment tomorrow morning, so they're traveling tonight. I believe your ETA is in an hour to arrive there. So yeah, so Crew 30 had a busy summer. To answer your question.
Yeah, are they fully staffed? Have we lost anybody?
Yeah, we have lost a couple, but had alternates in
Okay.
play, so it's a full crew still at this point. And they're doing phenomenal work. They're a type 2 IA qualified officially in IQS now. And they exceed those qualifications. This last run in Alaska was phenomenal, as to be expected, with Brent and that crew. They got accolades up and down the ranks in Alaska down to our people here. So like I said, they returned home, got their rest period, came off a rest period, put on the board, and got deployed. So, and forecasts here, we're looking for some mild weather for the remainder of the week. We have one day that's gonna be a little bit hotter, and then right back to a little bit more mild temperature. But we always monitor where we're at locally. The big thing for concerns for us are winds, and we're sitting, as it sits right now, forecast wise, doing okay. That hurricane, that came through, turned into a tropical storm, that weather system pushed through Boise and really hammered eastern Oregon, not only with some lightning, but a lot of rain. So that's really kind of good for half the state, but the other half is still very dry, and the fires, we're starting to get those seasonal fires that we would expect. But Crew 30 is busy. We do have a task force that's in Lane County. They should be getting demowed in the next few days, would be my guess. And returning back, done phenomenal work there. Mark Corliss is the ops section chief for Blue Team with the Oregon State Fire Marshal's office on that fire for the Lookout Fire, and is just kicking butt as to be expected. So those are just some information items for you.
Good. Anybody else? Okay, the next meeting of the Board of Directors will be on Monday, September 18th at 5 p.m. in this room. It will be hybrid with the public invited to attend either personally or by remote video. Let's see,
Darling,
yeah,
remember, that's a very special day.
yeah,
Come bearing gifts.
there is a birthday,
Hint.
as if we didn't need to be reminded.
Right on the board.
Yeah.
You change your birthday every year to land on a board meeting.
But can I
What's
say,
your real birthday?
you guys do this to me.
Jim, you have anything?
Nope.
Okay,
Other than
thank
thank you, great evening. Sorry I wasn't able to make it in person.
A little bit jealous, Jim, looking at your surroundings.
Yeah,
It
at
looks-
the
it
Lincoln
looks
City.
awesome.
Okay,
The ocean.
meeting is adjourned at 6:26 p.m.
Thank you.
You get